You can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay, thanks. So we'll start with the first problem, that is Zombie Hunter. So I guess most of you all must have got this right, so I'll just go over it very quickly. So the problem basically was that you're given basically endpoints on the 2D Cartesian plane, and what you had to do was find the number of points among them which are at most d distance away from the origin. Okay, so it was a basic implementation based question. So what you had to do was find the distance of these points from the origin and just compare it with d. If it is less than or equal to d, then you add it to the count. Else you just leave it. So finally I had to return this count. So yeah, so this was the first problem. It was quite straightforward. So let's go to the next problem, that is uh, okay. Yeah, Game of Towers. So in Game of Towers, what was given was that you are given a game. Alice and Bob are playing the following game. So there are n buildings which are made up of Lego 1x1 blocks, and each building had ni the ith building had ni number of towers. So and these towers are just a stack of these 1x1 blocks of Lego. Okay, and also another information given was that these towers are not like any ordinary towers. So if the first tower had like height hi, that means the number of blocks, Lego blocks in this tower is hi. Then the next tower has hi plus 1. Then then the third tower has hi plus 2, and so on. And as there are ni towers, so the last tower will have hi plus ni minus 1 blocks, right? So on each turn, a player selects a building first, and then selects a tower which is not yet empty, and removes a non-zero number of blocks from the tower. Okay, so you can remove entire. So let us say he picked up building I and selected the first tower, which has hi number of blocks in the first turn. Then you can remove all the hi blocks, or you could remove just one block also. So anything, any number of just non-zero number of blocks have to be removed, and if it becomes zero, then the tower is no more there. So as you see, this game will go on, and finally it has to end when all the blocks are finished or are removed. Now so the player when this game ends, that is, there are no more blocks to remove, or there are no more buildings basically. So the player who is left the player who has this turn where no more blocks are left loses the game. Okay, so the player who doesn't have any blocks to remove loses the game. So Alice starts the game, and the players alternate, and they both play optimally. So both want to win the game. So this was the basic setup of the game. So I hope it's clear. So given these arrangements, you had to find the winner of the game. And so if you notice clearly, and if you know, so this game called Nim game. So this problem is actually almost exactly an instance of the standard Nim game. So people who know about Nim game, it's fine. So I just go over like what is a Nim game. So in Nim game, you are given n stacks. Is the font size okay? Is it, or is it too small? Should I increase it by one? I'll increase it by one. Yeah. So in the Nim game, we are given n stacks with the Ri number of rocks in the ith stack. So in each turn, again, it's played between two players, and the first at any turn, a player selects a stack which is not yet empty, and picks up a non-zero number of rocks from it and just removes it. So finally, the player who has no more rocks to pick up loses the game. So as you can see, this is exactly the same game that we have over here. Just that as a like kind of it was described as a two-step game, but it is actually exactly this, and where every tower is behaving like a stack in this in game. So for those of you who know what is the solution to Nim game, so this game is always solvable. That is, if you're given this information, so you can always determine who's the winner of the game based on this particular criteria. That so let us say R1 number of blocks are there in the first stack and R2 number of blocks are there in the second stack, and so on. So if the XOR value of these number of blocks or number of rocks is 0, then the second player always wins. That is, Bob will win. And if it is non-zero, then Alice will win. So I will share this link soon, and also this editorial will be posted on Poster. So you can check the proof of this. So why is this condition true? So this is a very standard game, and you'll if you're doing competitive programming regularly, you'll find this or a version of this coming up in many contests. It's a very famous problem. So, but the thing is that this is not just enough. So if you know it's nim game and you know that what you have to do is find the XOR values. So this is still not enough to solve this problem efficiently, because over here, as I said, the stack. We have the stack of this nim game is each tower. But according to the constraints of the problem, there are n buildings and n is around 10 power 5. And each building has at most 10 power 16 towers. So in the worst case, you will have at most like 10 power 21 towers. So if you want to compute the XOR value of 10 power 21 integers, so this is going to be very bad. So as you know, like in 1 second, you can just do 10 power 9 operations. And here's 10 power 21. So this is going to be very horrible if you just calculate it naively. So hence, this computing XOR is inefficient. Direct computing directly XOR is inefficient. So over here now another important observation comes into play, that if you check each building as mentioned in the problem, so the number of blocks in the towers are consecutive integers. That is, you have hi number of blocks in the first tower, hi plus 1 in the second, and so on, and hi plus ni minus 1 blocks in the last tower, right? So these are consecutive integers. So this is, so the one you can notice a very important property. So we can make use of this property to find this value efficiently. So first, I'll go through a very important property of XOR. That is, uh, so A XOR B is equal to A. That is, if you take any integer A and XOR it with itself, the value is 0. Because what is XOR? So bitwise XOR is like, if both the bits are same, then the value is 0, and if they're different, the value is 1. So in this case, A XOR B will give A. So over here you can see that this property is basically something like a subtraction operation for XOR, and we will use this. So is everything clear till here? Any doubt so far? So I hope everyone like got why is this problem actually an instance of nim game. Even if you don't know what didn't know what nim game was before, so at least you understood now like why is it nim game. Any doubts so far? Okay, I'll continue then. So now, using this property that AX or BX or B is A, we will see something else. We will define this following XOR S of n. So this function XOR S of n is nothing but XOR values of all integers from 1 to n. Okay. So so now if you notice one thing, so now if you consider some consecutive integers, that is a plus 1, a plus 2, and so on till b, if you want the XOR of these numbers. So using this property over here that we saw here, you can notice that you just XOR it with all numbers from 1 to a minus 1. So what you get is nothing but one XOR of all the integers from 1 to b, and then what you do is XOR it with again with all XOR of all integers from 1 to a minus 1. Okay. So as you saw in this property, the first a minus 1 values will become 0, and it will finally give us basically this value. So we want to calculate this value. For this, what we do is we take the XOR values of 1 to b. That is, we are just kind of, you can say, adding and subtracting something. And subtracting notation is nothing but doing XOR again in terms of XOR. I hope this property is clear. And from here we can see that this quantity is nothing but XOR S of B, and this quantity is nothing but XOR S of A minus 1, right? So XOR of any consecutive integers A to B can be computed as XOR S of A minus 1 XOR S of B. So is this clear? Any doubts over here? You want me to go through it again?
I think it's clear. You can
Okay,
continue.
I will take that as a yes. So all of you all understood this part. So now, how do you compute? So basically now any tower is actually a set of consecutive integers, and we want to find XOR of all those towers, right? So any building is a set of consecutive integers. We want to find XOR of that, and so we saw over here that using this property. So basically, what you have to do is XORs of what do you say? XORs of hi. So this quantity will be nothing but XORs of hi plus ni minus 1 XOR XORs of hi minus 1, right? So that is what we'll get. So we can compute now this value efficiently, but how do you get the value of XORs of n? So again, this is an important thing. And now let us check another very interesting property. I think most of you all must have tried this by hand, like finding first 1 XOR 2 XOR 3 XOR 4, whoever saw it maybe. But I'll try to give maybe a generalized proof, and it's very simple over here. So let us consider any 4 consecutive integers of the form 4n, 4n plus 1, 4n plus 2, and 4n plus 3. Okay. So now in the binary representation, so if 4n, as you see, it is divisible by 4. So in the binary representation, the last 2 bits, that is the least significant bits, should be zeros. So, and as the next numbers are 4n plus 1, 4n plus 2, and 4n plus 3, so the last 2 bits are 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, and 1, 1, right? So now when, if you just take, we have 4n. And next, if we consider 4n XOR 4n plus 1, so as we know, the remaining bits, that is all the bits are after like the third bit. So how many ever bits are there in this number? So 3 till the last, the most significant bits are same in both the numbers 4n and 4n plus 1. Okay. So in that case, all these bits, when we take the XOR, as they are the same, so the values, the bit values will become 0. So only thing that is different is, as we see, just the last 2 bits, that is 0, 0, and 0, 1. And if we consider the XOR of these bits, the only the last bit is 1. So so basically we get 4n XOR 4n plus 1 as 1. Okay. Next, when we consider 4n XOR 4n plus 1 XOR 4n plus 2. So it's like 1 XOR 4n plus 2. So 1 XOR 4n plus 2. And as we can see here, the last 2 bits of 4n plus 2 is 1, 0. So when you XOR it with 1, it's like just adding a 1 over here in the last bit, right? So which is nothing but 4n plus 3. So I hope this is clear. And now when you XOR it with 4n, XOR this with 4n plus 3, as we know, any number XOR with itself is 0. So you get 0 over here. And this pattern keeps repeating. Like if you consider the next number, so as you have 0 over here, any number XOR 0 will be that number itself. So as you can see, for every consecutive 4 integers, we will get this pattern. So from here we get the XOR S of n to be n if n modulo 4 is 0, 1 if n modulo 4 is 1, n plus 1 if n modulo 4 is 2, and 0 if n modulo 4 is 3. So basically we can compute this XORS value now in order one time. So I think we're done with most of it. So finally the algorithm is basically for solving this problem. Go through each building and compute the XOR value of each building using this formula. That is, it would be XORS of hi plus ni minus 1 XORS of hi minus 1. So that will be the XOR value of all integers in the ith building, and you do that for all buildings. So it basically takes order and time over there. And next, what you have to do is just compute now XOR of all of these values. So, and just now check if it is 0, then Bob wins, else Alice wins. So I hope this is clear. Any doubts till here? So I hope it's clear. How did we get XORs of n function? The values. Why is it only those 4 values repeating orders? Oh, chat. Okay, nothing. There was apparently another solution that worked. Okay. Ame, you want to explain the solution? You can unmute yourself for.
Yeah, he's unmuted himself, but he's not audible.
Yeah. I can't hear Raj also. Maybe it's a problem from my side. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah.
I think now yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was just going through those through the solutions of like the after the contest. So some of this,
Mhm.
so I did this what you explained here, but some of the solutions that worked, I mean, I didn't so I didn't understand fully. So they just did some. They didn't do any XOR. They just added some. So I can paste one of the solutions, but I'm not sure if I should.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
not doing any XOR and it got all tests cleared. It's not my solution.
Yeah, just paste it. It's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So this got all clear and doesn't do any XOR.
Okay. So, like, Raj, can you just check the solution once? Like, I think we'll move on with the next question till then,
Yep.
and we can discuss this at the end. Maybe.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So, any doubts with this problem? Like, is this algorithm clear? So, yeah, the code is also very pretty straightforward. So, it's just you create this XORs function, and then for every building, just come append this XOR value of XORs of x minus 1. That's hi minus 1 over here. And this is the number of towers, so it's x plus m minus 1. That's it. And you just, if it is 0, you print Bob, else you print Alice. Okay, then if there are no doubts, then we can move on to the next problem. So Aditya, you can take over.
Yeah, okay. Okay, is my screen visible?
Yes, yes.
Okay. 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 So this question, Chase and Dungeons, was a DP question, a 1D DP question. So let's have a look at this problem first. So we have a link for the chain who is a setter from adventure. So he has come across a mystery channel filled with various threats, and the only way to go through is using platforms. So there are n plus 1 platforms, you could say. They are named 0 to n. And he has to pass through every one of these platforms, and certain number of these platforms are unsafe. So the platforms that are unsafe can be made safe in the following manner. So he has 4 spells. So if he is at the current platform X, so he could either make that current one safe, the next, including the current one, the 7 next platform safe, the next 14, or the next 30 platforms respectively. So the costs assigned to these various spells are different. So we have to find a very optimal way in which we have to choose the spells at which point we have to use them and in what number. So the number of them is unlimited, but we have to find a very optimal solution for it. Okay. So the solution is a DP question. So what we'll do is at any point, so let's just have a look at the solution and we'll walk through it. Okay. So when we'll go through the list of the days that we have, there'll be certain days that will be marked in this list days, which we know that the platforms will be unsafe. So once the last platform, along with all the previous ones, have been made safe, that's the point where we can stop. So we need to make sure that all the platforms till the last element in the array days, that is days of -1, all the elements till that point are safe. So we'll take the inputs as the number of platforms that are unsafe and the last maximum number of platforms that we have. Then we'll take the input of the list of those platforms which are unsafe and the cost of the 4 spells that we have. So what we'll do is at every point, so this is an order n solution. So we'll go through each element of the days list. So we'll first, let's say the last element of days of -1 is 20, and there are 7 elements in the array days. So what we'll do is go from the index 1 till 20, and if the current element is in the array, we know that that platform is currently unsafe. So we have to do some operation based on whether that current list element is unsafe or not. So we know that if we are at a current position of I, then there are 4 ways that we can make that platform safe. So one is that we have just reached it and we make that platform safe itself. One is that we can make the 7 platforms before it. So we would have made we have made this portion at I-7th position, and then make these 7 platforms safe along with this ith platform. And similarly for 14 and 30, we have to make sure that we don't go into the negatives. So we have to make sure that we are having a value of greater than equals 0 in the indices. And we have to find the minimum at each stage that we have. So we have to find the minimum of all these 4 values that we have, and we assign it to the current position. And now we know that the current position I was definitely made safe. So we'll go to the next index in the array days. And if the current platform is not in the list, that is, it is already safe. So we don't need to buy any new. Don't need to use any new spells, and we can simply say that the cost till the previous position would be the same as the price till the current position. And then at the end, we simply output the spell value at the last position, that is dp of -1, which will be the minimum cost till the last platform is being made safe. Okay, so this is the answer could be simple to explain, but it's tough to come up with a DP statement. So any doubts? If anybody has any doubts, you could post the doubts in the chat. Okay, so if there are no doubts, Kishanbhai, you can continue with the last question.
Okay. So yeah, my screen is visible, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, let's large question then. So yeah, the last question. So the question was as follows: you're given two strings n and w. So what you had to find was that so n is a bigger string and w is kind of a pattern. So what you had to find was that the total number of ways to kind of cut off non-zero number of w's from n. So what do I mean by cutting off an occurrence of w in n? So basically, so if I remove one occurrence of w from n, then if there was some kind of an overlapping occurrence, so I will see the example of, for example, ABA, and you want to find the occurrences of ABA in it. So when we cut out, let us say the first occurrence of ABA. So though there was another occurrence over here, but as this A got cut off, so this second occurrence is no longer a valid occurrence in this case. Okay. So in that way, so what are the total number of ways to cut off non-zero number of W's from n? Like for example, in this case, the answer is you cut off only this ABA or you cut off this ABA. So the total number of ways is 2. And as the values could go huge, you had to return it modulo 10 power 9%. Okay. So this was basically the problem. Let us like first. So the first observation or the first thing that we need to convince ourselves over here is that we need to obtain the occurrences of all the occurrences of W and N. So without this, we cannot do anything. So find all the occurrences of W and N, and then maybe we can try to solve this problem of finding the number of ways. Okay. And so how do we do this? Like how do we find the occurrences of this string W in the string N? And this is a standard pattern matching problem, and you can use, and there are many known algorithms for this. So some of them are the KMP algorithm or the Z algorithm. So these are all string algorithms where basically you're given these two strings and you find all the occurrences of one of the string in the other. Okay. So I will not discuss these algorithms now because explaining them itself is kind of will take up maybe 1 hour lecture or something. So, but I've provided resources over here. So when this is posted, you can get it. Or I'll share the link now later in the chat. So let us say now using one of these algorithms, I somehow got all the occurrences of W and N. So basically by the mean, like what I mean by finding the occurrence of W. So basically I'm finding the index in the string N at which the one of some like an occurrence of W ends. Okay. So what do I do is I store this information in an array A, and so what will be the value over here? So at an index I, if an occurrence of W ended at that index I, so what I do is I put a 1 in oh sorry. So yeah, so I put a 1 at that position, at that index in E. Okay. And if there is no occurrence of W that is ending over there, I put a 0. I hope this is clear, like how we constructed it. So you use one of these string algorithms and find the occurrences of W and N. And at any index I, if there is an occurrence of W ending over there, so what you do is you store, you put a 1 in the array. Okay. And if there is no occurrence that is ending at that index I put a 0 over there. Okay. So now we let us just check one example also. So we take the same example ABA and W's ABA. So over here we can see ABA is occurring here. So I put a 1 at wherever it ends, and next ABA is occurring over here, again over here. So I put a 1 as it is ending at the last index. I put a 1 over there. So I hope this array A is clear, right? Yeah, if this is clear, now we'll go on to solving this, counting the total number of ways. So what we were given was that we need to find the total number of ways of cutting off W from N, right? And total number of cutting off like non-zero number of W's from N, right? So this problem can be now translated into this problem as we have this array A. So now basically what we have to solve is the number of ways to pick ones from this array such that no two picked ones, like among the ones which are picked, they every pair of them, so they should be mutually at least at a distance of mod W, that is the length of string W. I hope that is clear. Why is this the case? Because if there is at least a distance of mod w in between them, that means they are totally non-overlapping occurrences. For example, over here, ABA mod w is of length 3. So we can see over here that the distance is 2 between these two. So that's why you can say that they're overlapping. So these two occurrences are overlapping. But if there was a 0 over here in between, then that means that they are not overlapping. Okay. So so basically what we need to find now is picking total number of ways of picking non-zero number of ones from A such that the picked ones are mutually at least mod b distance apart. So this is our problem now. And what we'll do is we'll use dynamic programming for this. So here are 2 DP problems this time. So what we do is so this is our following DP. So let DP of I denote the number of ways of picking non-zero number of ones in the array A1 till I. Okay, the array from 1 till index I. I'm finding the number of ways of picking non-zero number of ones. So the same problem that we are solving, but just till the index I. And there is another condition. So yeah, such that the chosen ones are mutually at least mod w distance away. And another condition is that if at the ith distance, so let us say if the ith index is a 1, then I am picking that one. Okay, so so basically the one at the AI is picked. Okay, so this denotes, so this is basically going to be stored in DP of I. Okay, so the total number of ways of picking non-zero number of ones in the array A1 is to I, such that no chosen ones are mutually at least distance. The chosen ones are mutually at least mod w distance away, and the one at AI is picked. And what if AI is not 1, AI is 0? Then we put DP of I as 0. That's it. Is this okay? Is this fine? Is this DP statement fine? Any doubts over here? Should I explain it again or anything? Okay, I hope everyone got it. So I'll just go through it once more, just for clarity. DP of I will denote the number of ways of picking non-zero number of ones in the array A1 is to I, such that the chosen ones are mutually at least mod w distance away. So this is exactly the same problem that we're solving, but with an additional constraint that the one at AI is picked. Okay, so the one at AI is picked. So this is another constraint that we're adding. And if A of I is 0, DP of I is 0. Okay, so now what we do is, and also we introduce another another array prefix of I. It's nothing but the summation of DP of I till j. So till I. So prefix of I is summation over 0. Sorry, it should be 1 over here. J equal to 1 till I DP of I. Okay, it's just a prefix sum basically. We are storing the prefix sum. And why we are doing this, we will see now. So now when we are processing this index I, if A of I is equal to 1, so if it's 0, directly DP of I is 0, but if it is equal to 1, so we are picking this one up. So we are selecting this one. So what are the total number of ways to pick ones now in this array A1 is to I, such that you have already picked up this one also. So if you notice, this is going to be the number of ways to pick non-zero number of ones in the array A1 is to I minus W. So why is this? Because as we pick the one at index I, we cannot pick any one present in indices I minus 1, I minus 2 and so on till I minus W plus 1. Is this okay? Because if we pick up any other one from there, basically this one at I is overlapping with that. So that is not what we want. Okay, so basically now if this one is picked up, what we need to find is the total number of ways to pick non-zero ones in the array A1 is to I minus W, right? But what is that value? That is nothing but prefix of I minus 1 W. And why is that? So what is prefix storing? Prefix is storing summation DPI, right? So what is the meaning of prefix I minus W? So it's the total number of ways of picking up non-zero number of ones in the array A1 is to I. So this should also be J, I guess here. Sorry for the mistakes. Yeah. So yeah, so DP of I over here is saying that the total number of ways to pick up non-zero ones such that they're at least mod W distance away. In the array, A 1 is to I, 1 is to J basically over here. And we are selecting the one at that index. So what will prefix store? It's basically the total number of ways where we are picking the one at all these indices J. So this is basically the total number of ways of picking up non-zero number of ones in this array A1 is to I. So I hope you get this. What is prefix of I? So DP of I had this additional constraint that the ith one is picked up. But prefix of I is basically taking a summation over all of these values. That is, I for all I from 1 to for all j from 1 to I, we are finding the total number of ways to pick up non-zero number of ones such that the jth one is picked up. And if we do summation over all such j, it's basically the total number of ways to pick up such ones, non-zero number of ones. So that is basically the meaning of prefix of I. And what we wanted here was a total number of ways to pick non-zero ones in this array. So that is nothing but prefix of I minus W. So is this part clear? Any doubts here? You can unmute yourself or try it in the chat if you want me to go over anything again. Okay, I hope it's clear then. Okay, so as this value is already calculated, we have the value of prefix of I minus W. So basically now dp of I will be 1 plus prefix of this, and why is this 1? Because we told non-zero number of ones, and if we pick up just the one at I, that is also one way of picking up thing. So, and you do not pick up any more ones before it. So this is one way of picking up picking up a one, and then you add it with total number of ways of picking up ones in this array A1 is to I minus W. Okay, so that is dp of I. And then what you do, you just keep updating prefix of I. So prefix of I is prefix of I minus 1 plus dp of I. So doing this, finally your answer should be prefix of n, right? So prefix of n is basically storing now the total number of ways of picking one such that they are at least distance mod W apart. No, picking up non-zero ones. So hope this is clear. And yeah, so we had to return the answer modulo 10 power 9 plus 7. So appropriate modular arithmetic has to be applied. So I'll just show you in the code actually where all you need to apply. And so any doubts still here? So if this is clear, then we can just go through the code once. And also there's another nice observation here is that as dp of I doesn't depend on any other dp of I minus 1 values, it just depends on prefix values. What we can basically, to save space, we can store directly the value of prefix of I in dp of I. Because you can see like deep in the recursion for dp of I, there is no dependence on the previous dp values. It's just depending on prefix value. So what you can do is directly store the dp value as a prefix value. So you save basically an array of space, like order and space. So it's like, it's nothing much. So I'm basically going to do that in the code. That's why I'm just telling you this. So the time complexity would be, for pre-processing. So if mod n is the size of the string n and mod w is the size of string w. So either KMP or Z algorithm or Rabin-Karp algorithm, or there are so many algorithms to do this. All of them will take order mod n plus mod w. Okay, for finding all the occurrences, and computing this dp value takes order mod n, right? So basically the overall running time is just order mod n plus mod w. So yeah, I'll just go over the code once. So this part, that is this LPS. So I've used KMP algorithm over here, Knoop-Morris-Platt algorithm, for finding the occurrences of this pattern in this occurrences of W and N. So I'm leaving this code and directly going to the main code. Fine. So first, what I do is I'm getting this output from KMP. That is, I'm getting basically the array A. Okay. So this is my array A. So array is nothing but ARR over here. So this will be basically 1 if an occurrence of W ends over there, or 0 else. And now this code is to calculate the DP value. So if ARR of 0, this is the initial condition. So what I'm doing over here is now I'm just iterating over all these indices from 1 to n, and where n is size of the string n. And if the value is 1, so what I do is I do something like this. So dp of I is 1 plus prefix of I minus m. But as I told you, prefix of I minus m is I'm going to store the value of prefix of I minus m at dp of I minus m, because we can just save space. Okay. So dp of I is 1 plus the prefix of I minus m over here, and I'm doing modular arithmetic over here, just taking a whole modulo m. And once this is done, we have to update the prefix value. So over here, as I told you, dp is only the prefix, so dp will be dp I minus 1 plus dpi and whole modulo m again. So this is just the two places where you need to do modular arithmetic also. So it's quite simple. And finally, what you have to do is print the last prefix of n, which is nothing but dp of n over here. So I hope the code is clear. So yeah, for implementation of these string algorithms, you can check. I think there are a lot of sources available, but I will also just paste this source. So any doubts so far? So these pattern matching algorithms have a lot of applications, and they are very like common also in many contests. So you will find if you find problems on strings, then definitely it will involve some pattern matching. So it will involve like you'll generally find problems where you use KNP or Z algorithm or anything. So it's a very nice algorithm. These are very nice algorithms. So yeah, it would be nice if you could go through them once. But any doubts in this problem? Should I go over anything again with the DP or anything? So if no one has any doubts, we can end the session. Or if anyone wants to discuss their solutions, like if your solution was different from what we explained, so you can discuss it if you want. It's fine. Okay, if there are no doubts, we can end the session then. Thank you.